The sea is black, and the sky is blacker. Kapitän Lieutenant Ernst Becker stands in the open conning tower of U-267 oilskin collar pulled high against the spray. The boat knifes through heavy seas at 10 knots, diesel engines thundering beneath his boots. No horizon, no stars, just cold air and the smell of salt and fuel. For months, Becker has called this stretch of ocean the Gap. Mid-Atlantic. Too far for British land-based patrol planes. Too far for the Americans flying from Newfoundland. A blind strip of ocean between Greenland, Iceland, and the British Isles, where the U-boats hunt convoys without fear of air attack. They whisper about it in Lorient and Saint-Nazaire like it's a sanctuary. Atlantic night, Becker mutters in German, squinting into the void, binoculars pressed to his face. God's own camouflage. Below him in the control room, red lights glow over sweating faces and cramped machinery. Radioman Oberfunkmat Keller leans over his receiver headphones, tight scribbling bearings on a grease pencil plot. The air stinks of diesel coffee and men who haven't washed in days. B. Dienst intercept just came in from BDU. Keller calls up through the hatch, voice muffled. BDU Befehlshaber der Unterseeboote. Admiral Dönitz headquarters, convoy ONS-5, westbound. Slow, escorts minimal. We're ordered to shadow and report. Shadow, not attack. Becker knows why. One boat reports, more boats converge. A wolf pack forms. Then they strike all at once. It has worked for years. Becker lowers his glasses and smiles without warmth. Wake the diesel watch. We'll close to 30 kilometers and wait for the others. He feels calm, confident. This is mathematics now. The Atlantic runs on tonnage. Every freighter sunk is more steel denied to England, more wheat at the bottom. Starve the island, force the armistice. That's what Dönitz promised. He taps his gloved fingers on the railing. No aircraft. Not out here. The boat shudders as a wave crashes over the bow, sending cold spray up to the bridge. The navigator Lieutenant Zur C. Vogel climbs up, wiping water from his face. Visibility 2 kilometers at best, Vogel reports. Sea State 5. No surface contacts. No screw sounds on hydrophone. We're alone, Good, Becker says. They are not alone. 20 miles to the southwest, above the dark curve of the Atlantic, something moves. It is a shape that should not be here. A 4-engined consolidated B-24 Liberator running low, barely 200 feet above the swells, engines humming in a deep rolling drone. Its pilot, Flight Lieutenant James Cotter of RAF Coastal Command, is fighting the wind with both hands on the yoke. Salt spray kisses the glass. The altimeter jitters. His navigator leans forward and points. ASV contact steady bearing 060. Range decreasing. Air-to-surface vessel radar. ASV Mark III. Centimetric. 10-centimeter wavelength. The new set. Cotter glances at the glowing cathode display. A pale blip pulses on the scope, something long and narrow moving at surface speed. That's no wave. Cotter's eyes flick to the clock. 02:19. They still think this water is blind, he mutters. Let's educate them. In the U-boat tower, Becker hears it first as a feeling, not a sound, a pressure in the air, then a faint tremor that doesn't belong to the Atlantic. He frowns and tilts his head. Ruhe, he snaps. Quiet. The bridge watch falls silent. There, low, a distant rolling buzz. 4 engines, no. Impossible, not out here. Alarm, 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 he roars, and the calm breaks instantly into violence. Klaxon, boots slamming steel. Men shove past each other down the ladder. Crash dive, crash dive. The helmsman spins the wheels. Ballast tanks vent with a metallic scream. U-267's bow dips. The Liberator drops lower, skimming the swell, now closing fast. Cotter's thumb hovers over the switch that arms the Leigh light bolted under the wing. A brutal white searchlight designed for one purpose: turn night into daylight, expose the submarine, and kill it. Standby depth charges, he calls over intercom. Pattern Bravo. Fuses shallow. We only get one clean run. The radar blip is almost on top of them. Cotter flips the guard and hits the switch. The Atlantic explodes into daylight. A cone of blinding white light, the Leigh Lights, slams down onto the sea. And there it is, a U-boat steel skin, wet and black. Wake foaming men still scrambling on the bridge. For one breathless second, Becker is frozen. The world goes from darkness to white agony. His pupils burn. He can see the plane. He can see the 4 engines. He can see the roundel. Verdammte Scheiße, down. He screams, throwing himself through the hatch just as the first depth charges fall. Inside the boat, they hear it coming. A rising howl. The thunder of 4 engines overhead. Then splashes. 4, 6, 8. Close all hatches, tanks, flood, level her. Vogel is shouting, voice cracking. The lights flicker. The charges detonate. The Atlantic doesn't boom, it punches. The hull rings like a cathedral bell. Pipes burst, gauges jump past red. Men are thrown off their feet. Someone screams, high-panicked. The forward torpedo room floods ankle deep in an instant. In the control room, Keller slams against a bulkhead and tastes blood. We're hit aft. We're taking water aft. Pump it out. Becker yells, crawling to his station, one hand to his ear, the other grabbing the periscope housing to stay upright. Hold depth at 40 meters. Do not lose trim. The boat is groaning, alive, wounded. They weren't supposed to be hunted here. Not here. The safe mid-Atlantic just lit up like a firing range. May 5th, 1943. North Atlantic, 02:23 hours. The boat is still shaking. Condensation rains from the ceiling in the control room. The red battle lamps swing on their cables like lanterns in a storm. Every valve screams at once. Men talk over each other, hands black with oil and salt water. Depth 46 meters and rising, Vogel shouts, eyes locked on the gauge. We're heavy aft, she wants to go down. Below negative, keep her level. Becker barks. Compressed air hisses through the hull. The U-boat moans as its trim tries to correct. Somewhere in the stern compartment, a pump coughs, catches, and begins fighting for their lives. It's not the attack that terrifies Becker. It's the implication. For years, doctrine was simple. Aircraft were a coastal threat. Stay submerged in the Bay of Biscay by day. Only surface in daylight within range of friendly air cover. At night on the open Atlantic, the boat owns the ocean. Surface for speed. Surface for recharge. Surface to coordinate the pack. But that whatever just hit them wasn't some short Sunderland lumbering out of Iceland with a searchlight and luck. That was a 4-engine American-style patrol bomber with radar hunting by night 2,000 kilometers from land. Which means the gap is gone. Captain Keller shouts from the radio position. HFYDF warning, we're being fixed. High-frequency direction finding. Huff duff. The British have gotten good with it, triangulating U-boat transmissions in minutes. Becker knows the new orders from BDU radio, short radio, seldom. Speak only when you must. But Wolfpack doctrine needs talk. If you don't talk, you can't mass. And if you can't mass, you're just a single boat in a very large Allied ocean. Becker clenches his jaw. Maintain radio silence. We are no longer shadowing that convoy. We are evading. Vogel looks up sharply. Herr Kalun, BDU ordered, I said we are evading. Above them, Flight Lieutenant Cotter circles in a long banking left turn, watching the oil slick widening over the black water. His bomber shivers in the gusts rolling off the waves. Any sign of debris, he asks. The nose gunner leans forward against the perspex blister, squinting past the glare. Negative. She's still alive. We heard her, but She's not breaking up. Cotter exhales. Right. Mark the position. Send contact report to Coastal. Tell them we've got one down there likely damaged. Escorts will want a sniff. His wireless operator is already tapping. That one transmission will ripple outward across the Allied web like blood in water. On the surface in 1941, the Royal Navy and Royal Canadian Navy escorts had to defend convoys alone. A few destroyers, maybe a corvette. IS-DIC sonar depth charges luck and guts. The U-boats would race in at night, surface fast fire 4 bow tubes, then disappear into blackness. But it's not 1941 anymore. Now there are hunter-killer groups. Small escort carriers, CVEs with flat decks barely long enough for aircraft sailing, not with convoys, but for U-boats. USS Bogue, HMS Audacity's successors. Converted merchant hulls carrying Avengers and Wildcats, steaming with destroyer screens and absolute purpose. Find contact, fix contact, bleed contact. Hours from now in daylight, one of those groups will be vectored here. They will not care about convoy ONS-5. They will care about Becker. Inside U-267, the chief engineer Oberleutnant Ing Hartmann appears in the control room with water up to his shins and fury in his eyes. Aft trim tank ruptured but contained. We've got a cracked flange on the port shaft line. Pumps holding for now. We can stay down, but not fast and not forever. How bad, Becker asks quietly. Hartmann wipes his face with a filthy sleeve. If we stay submerged, batteries will drain before dawn. If we surface before dawn, they'll be waiting. The control room falls into a kind of tense silence. This is the new equation. It's not hunter-prey. It's pressure. Stay down and drown. Go up and die. Becker feels the boat around him. Steel plates creak as the Atlantic squeezes at 48 meters. The air is already warming, thickening. Sweat runs down Keller's temple and drips onto the radio set. How long until batteries? Half, Becker asks. Hartmann checks his board. 3 hours, maybe 4, if we hold creep speed. Creep speed. Barely moving, nearly blind, passive. Which means, Becker thinks grimly, we're no longer stalking. We're hiding. He hates the taste of the word. In the bow torpedo compartment, Matrosengefreiter Lenz crosses himself. He's 19. This is his second patrol. He had been told over schnapps in Lorient that the Atlantic was our hunting ground. He whispers into the dark, Heilige Maria Mutter Gottes. Becker forces his breathing to slow. A captain who panics kills his boat. All compartments report, he orders. His voice is steady again, almost cold. We will go silent running. No pumps unless absolutely necessary. No chatter. Trim for 50 meters and hold. Navigator new course 270. We run west away from the convoy until dawn. Vogel hesitates. Away, Herr Cologne. Yes, Becker says. Away. We live first. We hunt later. He says it out loud because he has to. But inside, something twists. Live first. Hunt later. That is not Dönitz's language. That is survival language. Hours pass. The Atlantic above them roars and hisses and rolls. The Liberator finally breaks off and turns north to refuel. The white cone of the Leigh Light is gone. The night returns to black. But the spell is broken. The men of U-267 are underwater, unbreathing, and for the first time since 1940. They are afraid of the sky in the middle of the ocean, May 7th, 1943. BDU headquarters Kernevel, near Lorient, France. 2 days later. The air in Admiral Dönitz's operations room is thick with tobacco smoke chart paper and controlled anger. Dönitz, now Gross Admiral Commander-in-Chief of the German Navy, stands over a North Atlantic plot covered in grease pencil arcs. Convoy routes, Wolfpack patrol lines, sinkings, sightings, losses, too many losses. Report, he says. Korvettenkapitän Müller, his staff operations officer, clears his throat and reads from a clipboard. His voice is precise, but there's a tightness to it. Convoy ONS-5 engaged between 4 May and 6 May. By Gruppe Finke Gruppe Amsel and subsequent reinforcements. Initial contact successful. Multiple merchantmen reported hit. He pauses. However, counterattack was intense. Dönitz doesn't blink. Numbers. Müller swallows. We have confirmed the loss of U-531, U-630, U-190, presumed U-438, U-710. Several others damaged and returning. Our boats report continuous air coverage in mid-ocean both day and night. Long-range bombers, escort carriers, high-frequency direction finding, radar. The word radar hangs in the air like a threat. Dönitz slowly exhales through his nose. His nickname among the crews is Der Löwe, the Lion, not for volume, but for that cold focus. He leans on the table with both fists. The mid-Atlantic air gap, he says evenly. It no longer exists. It is not a question. Müller nods once. Dönitz had built his war on mathematics. He'd said it himself in 1942, sink 700,000 tons a month and Britain collapses. He believed in wolf packs, in centralized control, in striking at night on the surface where the U-boat was fastest. That formula is dying in front of him. Sir Müller continues carefully. We're also receiving consistent reports of aircraft illuminating boats at night with searchlights. Dönitz finishes. Yes, Herr Gross Admiral. But not normal searchlights. They describe a sudden white beam at extremely close range. Instantaneous illumination, followed immediately by depth charges. Leigh Lights. ASV radar finds the target in darkness without alerting it. The Leigh light flips on at the last second, locking the boat in a cage of light before it can dive. The first time a U-boat captain sees it is usually the last time he sees anything. Dönitz has seen intercepted RAF memos. He knows the weapon by name. And hunter-killer groups, he asks. Müller nods grimly. Escort carriers operating independently. USS Bogue Group is credited with multiple kills. HMS Biter as well. They are no longer waiting for us to attack convoys. They are searching for us. Outside the windows, Lorient's pens rumble with life. Massive concrete U-boat shelters meters thick, scarred by RAF bombs that never quite crack them. Crews cycle in and out. Torpedoes load. Men drink, brag, and pretend they are immortal. But the men coming back from patrol now are not bragging. They are pale, quiet, thin around the eyes. They talk about planes in places planes should not be. They talk about oil slicks glowing in the Leigh light. They talk about friends who never sent their final contact report because they never had time. They talk about May 1943 like it's a season. Black May. Dönitz straightens and walks to the wall map. He takes a red wax pencil and circles a patch of Atlantic between Greenland and Ireland. This was supposed to be the hunting ground, he says softly. We called it the air gap. No patrol coverage. No aircraft endurance. We could run surfaced by night recharge batteries, coordinate with the pack. He taps the circle. They closed it. How very long-range liberators, the B-24s with extended fuel capacity, extra tanks in the bomb bay, and crews trained not for bombing cities, but for stalking periscopes. RAF Coastal Command had begged for them since 1941 and finally forced them into service. American squadrons joined, pushing even farther. Escort carriers filling the seams, putting eyes and bombs over convoys all the way to mid-ocean. HF, DF stations on every escort, able to nail a U-boat's transmission in minutes. Centimetric radar that a U-boat's METOX warning receiver can't hear. Leigh Lights turning night into execution. The technology didn't advance one step. It jumped 5. Dönitz turns back to Müller. Issue immediate directive. All boats are to temporarily withdraw from the North Atlantic convoy lanes and redeploy south. We will regroup. Mueller stares at him. He blinks. For a heartbeat, he almost looks like a junior officer instead of staff. Withdraw. Herr Gross-Admiral. Did I stutter? Korvettenkapitän Mueller snaps to attention. No, sir. I will draft it at once. Dönitz nods, but his jaw is tight. He knows exactly what that order means. For 3 years, German propaganda has told the Reich and the U-boat crews themselves that they are strangling Britain, that the WWII is the decisive weapon, that the Atlantic is a battlefield they dominate through skill and will. Now, he is pulling them back. That is not how victory tastes. In the mess hall below, Becker sits alone at a metal table, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of ersatz coffee. U-267 made it home. Barely. The engineers patched the shaft. The pumps held. He brought his men back. But he is not celebrating. He's listening. Around him, other officers speak in low voices. Snatches drift. Leigh Light lit us like daylight. Never saw them coming. Just water boiling. Bogue's planes were on us before we even fixed the convoy. BDU says we're regrouping. Regrouping, you know what that means, Becker does. It means the math changed. It means the hunters became the hunted. May 24th, 1943. Mid-Atlantic. Dawn. Gray water. Low cloud. Wind 20 knots from the northwest. On the flight deck of the escort carrier, USS Bogue Lieutenant J.G. Tom Harrigan jogs toward his Grumman TBF Avenger parachute banging against his thigh. The deck is short, absurdly short for an aircraft this heavy. But the crew of Bogue has made this routine. They are not here to escort a convoy today. They are here to hunt. Let's go bag a snorkel, Harrigan's gunner jokes, climbing into the turret. They don't have snorkels yet, Harrigan shouts back over the wind. Then, let's bag whatever sticks up. The Avenger's radial engine coughs, then roars to life. Bogue turns into the wind. Spray bursts over the bow. The little carrier heels as her helmsman fights the swell to give Harrigan just a few more precious knots of headwind. Green flag. Harrigan pushes throttle forward, and the Avenger lurches, rattling down the deck, wheels bouncing. For a half second, it feels like the plane is going to fall into the Atlantic nose first. Then the wings bite the air, and they're climbing. Bogue shrinks behind them, an ugly, beautiful thing. A converted merchant hull with a flat deck, a few arrestor wires, and a small island. Around her, destroyer escorts cut V-wakes through the chopped sonar sets, pinging in patient rhythm. This is the new Atlantic Task Force, self-contained, mobile, predatory. They don't wait for the wolf pack to strike. They go out and break the pack. Harrigan levels off at 500 feet and scans. The ocean below is endless and indifferent. Radio get huff-duff bearings from the escorts, he says. We'll start our sweep from there. Back in U-267, Becker is listening to the diesels again. They've crept west, then south, and now he's brought the boat back up under gray daylight because they have no choice. Batteries nearly empty, air foul, men exhausted. The Atlantic has become a pressure cooker. Surface watch, only he warns. 5 minutes. Schnell. The bridge hatch opens and Vogel climbs out into weak daylight, cheeks, hollow eyes red. He raises his Uzo binocular mount and sweeps. It feels like sticking your head above the trench line and praying the sniper is asleep. He turns slow, disciplined, left to right. Wake foaming gently behind them. No masts, no smoke, no he freezes. Aircraft bearing 180, low alarm, crash dive. The siren screams again. Beckers feels his stomach twist. Again, again, again. Every surfacing is Russian roulette now. U-267 snaps downward. Harrigan watches the sea bulge and swirl where metal just punched below. Submerged splash 180. Mark it. His voice stays calm, almost casual. Prepare depth bombs. We'll run a pattern. The Avenger banks hard, dropping into its attack run. Harrigan's gunner grins like it's a training exercise. This is the part that would have sounded insane in 1941. American carrier planes flying hunter-killer patterns in the middle of the North Atlantic. Not guarding a fleet carrier, not guarding a battleship task force, not even attached to a convoy. Their whole mission is to sniff out a submerged steel tube and kill it. And it works. Because the U-boats aren't ghosts anymore. They can't sprint on the surface at night, recharge, and vanish before dawn. The Leigh Light burned that trick down. They can't loiter in the mid-ocean gap, safe from patrol aircraft. The very long-range B-24s erase the gap. They can't radio freely to mass 12 boats on one convoy lane, without the escorts hearing the call within minutes, triangulating and driving straight toward the contact. HF-ADF stole that. And now, even if a boat slinks away damaged, even if it slips off the convoy track into the empty blue, there are carrier-based Avengers and Wildcats combing the emptiness with radar and Mark 24. Phytoacoustic torpedoes, a mine that swims toward the sound of a U-boat's screws. There is no away anymore. Below at 60 meters, Becker grips the edge of the plotting table so hard his knuckles go white. The hull is quieter now. The pumps are off. The men are silent. You can hear breathing metal ticking as it cools. Somewhere aft, a single drop of water falls at steady intervals. Plink, plink, plink. Contact above Keller whispers. Screws, slow, circling. They all hear it. A faint, predatory hum through the water. Vogel whispers, Scheisse. Becker closes his eyes for half a second. He is not thinking about glory. He is not thinking about tonnage sunk or medals or propaganda reels. He is thinking with ice-cold clarity about survival odds. About how many more patrols he can take his crew on before probability cashes in. Because this is what changed in May 1943, and every U-boat captain who lived through it felt it in his bones. It's no longer a duel. It's a system. The Allies have made the Atlantic a machine. Radar, direction finding, escort carriers, long-range patrol bombers with searchlights that turn midnight into noon. Code breakers on land plotting wolf packs like chess pieces. Destroyer escorts fitted with sonar and hedgehog launchers waiting to pounce. One network, a net. By late May, Dönitz will pull dozens of boats out of the North Atlantic, not because the German Navy suddenly lost its nerve, but because the math went red. Too many U-boats sinking. Not enough ships going down in return. For the first time since 1939, the U-boat arm is no longer dictating the tempo of the Battle of the Atlantic. And the men who drive those boats, men like Becker, understand what that really means. The safe ocean is gone. The sky now belongs to the enemy, even at night, even in the middle of nowhere, and once the sky belongs to the enemy, the sea follows.